Grade point per game players, sir.
Why would you want Coach Pavelski? The dude's never coached before.
Neither is Warsofsky.
No,
There it is.
no, Warsofsky. Well, that's the thing, though.
No.
Like, it's so the argument. I tell you what. I know you're kidding, Colin, but I find that funny because so many people do that. They go this, and I go, you're complaining about a young coach that came in, and now you want to coach a guy that's never coached to come in. Like, let's just logically think about that. I understand that situation, not like the person not being tainted by like bad habits. I get that, but like, man, the logic sometimes of people.
No, like, well, I don't like now that we actually have a team that can like enter, like choose how it's going to attack, which boy, that's some fun I've missed. And seeing a team like trying to run the systems Warsofsky seems to be going for, I'm like, I don't know.
I
like
honestly,
this doesn't win cups, but that's not what this team's supposed to be caring about right now.
I'm not going to defend Warsofsky, but I really, really get the sense that a lot of the things that fans attribute to being him are the organization and not just him. There's so much smoke about some of like even the other day watching Dave on the chat, freak out about the Misa. I'm like, well, yeah, but there's a contract maximum and they're over the contracts. Like there's so many. I think this organization itself is pretty screwy. And I don't think Warsofsky's turning out to be a phenomenal coach. He's a young coach. He's making mistakes. And he's not adjusting as well. He's won at every other level. So it's not like he doesn't understand success. And not necessarily with great teams either all the way through. But Pavelski, who's never coached, I mean, maybe he's a good coach, but we have no fucking clue.
Hey, I'm just trying to get the band back together and you're a buzzkill. But like,
Colin, I think the band being together could be part of the problem. You got a band that didn't win shit, and I'm not knocking them, but like, let's like this is the whole thing with like, I like having the guys around. Don't get me wrong, but like, this is the whole thing with fans where it's like, oh fuck, if only we had this. When we had that, we weren't winning, guys. Like, fuck, move forward.
Alex, Dave would like you to know that he was not freaking out.
Oh, not you, Dave. Maybe I had someone else. Maybe it was you, Ben. Someone somewhere was
sure as fuck
out.
not me. I was the one who was with you on the contract.
Oh no, maybe it was. No. You know what? Maybe it was probably on Reddit. Sorry, Dave. That's my bad. But there were a lot of people that are like, there are a lot of people like fuck Warsofsky for like this with Dickinson, and I'm like, he's got the team has to manage the fucking games played with those two until they move someone because they were stupid. They were stupid.
Yeah.
They need to do that.
Like the signings were just not smart.
I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think I'm right with why they're doing those signings. I think they recognize the fact that they're going to have some contract issues later, which is not a bad thing because they have young studs that are going to be real fucking expensive all at the same time. And so I think they're trying to find young, like castaway options that could turn out to be good depth players. Like honestly, like Khrushchev, I think is a good example of that when it works. But they're doing it a lot. Like, and you can see it. There's a pattern. It's high draft pick or highly respected former prospect.
Like for the.
Let's start the podcast and save it for the podcast. Let's do that. Let's do that. And Dave can yell at me later. Do you have the YouTube link?
Hey, we should all be able to yell at you whenever we want.
I mean, you can yell. I mean, you do.
Do you actually post to Facebook?
I just, what's really funny? Facebook changed something with their login. And so now it's like, it's not accepting my password, which is fine.
Right.
And it's like, oh, like that, like, because they merged accounts or something. They're like, oh, no, it doesn't work. And I go, you're actively giving me a reason not to be on your platform by making it even harder for me to log in than it was before. But I did just figure it out because I have an album I have to promote. And so that'll pop in. Let me get this going. But annoying. Okay. You guys ready to go?
Always.
All right. And that
I'm not always ready to go. I'm old. I need time.
The triple check that number is correct on the podcast number.
We are 224. Yes.
Oh, 224. Fun game yesterday, by the way. Okay, here we go. You're recording. Yes. Yes.
If you have a YouTube link,
I know. I'm just quadruple checking. You never know.
Yeah, that's fine. I get it. I get it, but also shut the fuck up.
We just did a shoot this weekend. It was the second shoot in my career where we found out the audio guy, despite stopping the shoot multiple times, was not recording.
Oh,
and
God.
This time, this guy's getting sued. Like it was with a big celebrity. So it's like, hey,
oh, fuck.
Yeah. Oh, there were check-ins, multiple check-ins. So anyway, here we go. Hello and welcome to Circling the Cup, San Jose Sharks podcast, episode number 224. Woo! The Sharks, are they good? Are they bad? Do we know? I'm Alex. Here with me, as always, is the Honorable Ben. What's up, Ben?
Yeah. Games, wins.
Boy, that's what honorable people sound like. Real, real on top of it. And of course, dealing with time changes and time warps and wormholes is Colin in Sweden. What's up, Colin?
I saw a Sharks jersey in Stockholm today.
Nice.
I'm not surprised by that, actually. There's a lot of Sharks sweaters overseas.
Man, in like 18 years, this is number 2.
Oh, really? I've seen a ton going to and from England. So, but again, that's just because
England and Sweden, like basically the same.
Basically the same. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would just figure a hockey nation. If I'm saying I'm in England,
the well-known hockey nation.
Yeah, exactly. Hey guys, it's been a real interesting week. I guess I'd say we've seen a lot this week. We've seen the rise of Kurashev. We've seen the cycling of Dickinson and Misa. We've seen the offense kind of come back alive, and we've seen the goaltending get maybe like 2% steadier. The D is still the D, so I'm just going to go ahead and shrug at that one. But right now, the Sharks, we are podcasting on Sunday, so the Sharks have not yet played Detroit. But they did just get a 2-game win streak against the New Jersey Devils, who at that point were number 2 in the NHL. And then they followed that up with a win against the Colorado Avalanche, who are currently sitting pretty at 1 in the NHL. What is going on? Are these Sharks? What are these Sharks? And obviously, the fun part about having a weekly podcast and I guess going on with the fans too, Ben. And no, Ben, that laugh is fair. Is that obviously?
I just love the way you put that. That was great.
What are Sharks?
What are they even?
What are they even doing? But it's funny because you do go week to week, obviously. And, the fan base right now especially has these very extreme reactions. You hate Kurashev or you love Kurashev. You think the goalies are fine or you want to burn it all down. You think Warshawski's the worst coach ever. And then you hear about John McCarthy and you go, maybe he's not so bad at the end of the day. So it seems like this is actually, to me, kind of what I thought the season was going to be. One, the Sharks are starting to get fun again. You are starting to see glimpses of growth in the forward core, which is nice, particularly with the youth. You are starting to see bits and pieces of line chemistry, which is great. The second line this week just emerged out of like almost nowhere and has been awesome. The only 2 things that I think have been really steady since the beginning of the season are 1, Celebrini generally, and 2, Eklund's work ethic, which, quite frankly, that guy is on a mission, and I'm here for it. Because, I don't know if you all recall, but the future of the Sharks was supposed to be Hertl, Meyer, and Eklund. Eklund's the last one standing there. So it is good to kind of see him push forward. But I don't know. What's your guys' take? Not just in this last week, because it was an interesting week, but in general, are you guys seeing trends that you think are positive? Are you seeing trends you think are negative? Or are you still just in that kind of like, hey, it's still early, let's kind of wait and see?
Of all the bottom teams, we have the most goals for. Like this is such a fun team to watch because we are so lethal, even though we never shoot. And like, we have so many young players who are just surprising. Like you say, Eklund, Graf is just a monster.
If Graf could score, no, I mean, like, here's the thing. Here's the thing with Graf, right? And you see this with players where I'm a dad and I have a kid in youth soccer, and you see it there too, where you're like, you're doing the right things, just keep doing it. and it'll go in. At some point, it'll go in. And once it starts going in for Graf, yeah, thanks, Ben. Real professional on a podcast.
Wait, we're supposed to be professional?
No, but like seriously, Graf has great hustle. Once some of those near misses start trickling in, and I would honestly, I'd argue the same for Eklund. Not that I think Eklund is having major issues, but there are points where he's like inches away or a post or whatever. Once they start going in, it's starting to look like you may already have at least three competent lines going.
That's a bit ambitious.
I don't think so at all.
It depends on who is on the lines, right? Like,
yeah.
Are we your third line? Then yes, you have three good lines. If it's Skinner, Graf, Misa, the problem is that Warsofsky seems allergic to good lines. So
yeah, like that's the thing is we have enough players to make two like legitimately good lines and the possibility of making a good third line. But my point is this team is surprising to watch. We're fast and we're dangerous for offense, which is always fun to watch. And like, hey, it's could go either way. I'm still scared to death that we somehow sneak into the playoffs because
don't worry about
it. No. Hey.
No, I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it either. But I would argue we actually, to Ben's point, I think we do have three competent O lines. And to be honest, the fourth line, while not particularly great, has its moments. It's not the fourth line that I would be running personally. But there are instances where it does work a bit, and then they shelter them immediately. I think I have a question, and Ben, I'm going to direct this towards you because this is actually a question that I saw brought up, and I hadn't really thought about it, and I don't know what I think about it, but I know you're going to have a thought on it, and that was, they've been putting Will and Mac together very heavily. Mm-hmm. Now Will and Mac have a very obvious rhythm. You throw Toffoli in there, or even Eklund in there, or really, Wember. It doesn't seem to really matter. Those guys are right now both in the zeitgeist, but also, on the ice, kind of attached at the hip. Mm-hmm. And I saw a great debate about is that good or bad for Will Smith at the end of the day? Because on the one hand, you can keep them paired up and they are a ton of fun. And obviously Will Smith, produces in that environment really, really, really well. Now the original plan, as we know, was to, likely have Celebrini as a center, centering one line, Smith centering the next line. And then, we didn't know we were getting Misa, but, you find that third line center and all that. And I'm not saying that Will Smith necessarily needs to be a center because I'm not getting the sense that that's really the right position for him at the NHL level anyway. Yeah. But the question is, does having him always on the same line as Mac help his development, hamper his development, or neither? Because and the reason I thought this was interesting was when you watch them play, and I was at the game yesterday, the one thing that you do notice is they are constantly looking for each other. Not Celebrini, only because Celebrini doesn't look at anything. That's a joke. but they are. And obviously they are a good pairing together. Like there's no question about that. But for the benefit of Will Smith as a player and for the team longer term, do you think is that a positive or negative or neither?
Boy, is that a good question.
It is, isn't it? I hadn't thought of it. And I was like, wow, that's because on the one hand, it's kind of like when you have a player like Celebrini there, it's like having permanent training wheels on.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, man. I think that Smith is a player who runs on confidence.
Yes.
And because of that, I think that you need to give him his best chance to pile up points.
Sure.
To keep that confidence going. And I would glue Mac and Smith together until the end of time, personally, because I guess I just don't care about quote unquote development if a guy is scoring a point per game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like Like, what is development? So for
Well-
Smith, his weakness is clearly like defensive stuff, right? So if you would like to, I don't know, quote unquote, develop Smith, then I don't know, throw him to the wolves on the PK, right? Like,
Yeah.
make him, learn how to play the defensive side of the game. I don't know that he's ever going to excel at that, unlike Celebrini, who is great at everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess
Well,
it's a callous way of saying, like, if a guy has scored a point per game at the NHL level,
who cares? Right.
like, he's developed. You know what I mean? And it doesn't really matter if he's 20.
No, I know, and I agree with you. I think the counter argument, and again, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I'm leaning more towards where you are as well, where it's like, look, nothing's wrong, it's fine. And to be honest, the Sharks do have a prospect pool that does allow them to not have to necessarily stretch them across the lines, and they can further build on it. But if you'll notice, when Celebrini is not on the ice, his play does shift.
Mhm.
And now, Dave in chat here asks, is there such a thing as training wheels at the NHL level? There can be.
Thornton.
With the right, exactly, is a really good example, and you see it occasionally happen with other players as well, Crosby at points and Malcolm. So like when you have like a generational level player, which Macklin is definitely looking like at this young age.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but the thing that makes Macklin so special. So my youngest actually asked, who do you think's better, Macklin, Celebrini, or Thornton? And I was like, well, you can't compare a guy who wrapped his career with a guy who's just starting his career, because you don't know, right?
Oh, the answer is Macklin. Sorry.
I agree with that.
I agree. However, you don't know his durability or longevity necessarily.
This is not a knock on Jumbo, by the way. No.
But that's what I was
But
getting at.
Macklin can skate.
Well, the difference is Macklin is a much better skater. He's much faster. He's got passing.
Better shot.
He's got passing near Jumbo, and yes, he has that shot. So yeah, that is a player that can essentially. Macklin is going to be a player that will lift other players. There's no doubt in my mind with that. And
he already is.
Will, right? And Will is a player who is very skilled, absolutely, but who in no doubt is also benefiting by that, because Matt can find him always.
Let me add two things to my my answer to the question. So you asked, like, is it bad that he's not playing center, right? He's a wing on this line.
Oh, no. That's not my question at all.
No,
I have no problem.
Not you, but there's the implication that, we drafted him as a center.
Who cares?
There was a brief moment in time last year where we were trying him at third line center. He took off when he became a wing. And my thinking on that is, first of all, you don't need him to develop into a center, and that's partly
not
thanks
at this point,
to Michael Misa. And second, I don't know that it's his skill set. I don't think he has the defensive instincts. I mean, not that he's bad defensively. Like, when he's hustling, he's just as good as Celebrini at lifting sticks and taking away pucks. He's not as good against the boards as Celebrini is, but who is?
I don't think he's as good a QB either. I think he's great. Right. I think he's good at getting open. Yeah, it's not that he's bad at passing. He's good at getting open,
at passing,
and his shot is so fast that I would much rather have him on a wing.
Yeah. So in that sense, like, is it a bad thing to end up with a top line wing with the number 4 overall pick in an NHL draft, and that be his what he ends up being? No, right? No. So I guess what I would tell the Redditors that asked the question is, just calm down, guys.
Oh, it wasn't Reddit, actually. It was NHL Tonight or something like that.
Well, if you get a chance, tell the NHL Tonight guys to just calm down.
Honestly,
I can't remember, but it wasn't Reddit.
There might exist.
Yeah.
But like, so Celebrini, Ben, you say Celebrini is like great along the boards, and it's like, yeah, he is great no matter where he is on the ice. But like,
exactly,
board, like the gritty, chippy board corner battle stuff, like Celebrini tends to just either like slip through them or like just like mug the puck. He just comes up and steals the puck out of it. But the thing is, Celebrini needs somebody to go to the corners and deal with the dirt. And I have been shocked at the amount of times that when we do dump and chase. Smith is in these gritty corner situations,
Yeah.
making these great, like, just first touches.
He's
That-
trying,
that-
right? Like,
Yeah.
And he's going there and he's doing that shitty work that lets the cool stuff happen. And he's surviving and he seems to be getting better at it. And this was the stuff, like, this team is soft. And I am like, and I'm really, really worried about this team going against somebody who's actually like a playoff team out for blood. So seeing Smith like step in and get into that nasty stuff and do well, I think is great. Like, I think he is finding a perfect place for himself.
Yeah, I do think it is again, an interesting question, just because, not that necessarily you would want to split them apart all the time. I don't agree with that at all. And to Ben, your point, in theory, because Misa could end up in a similar situation as Smith for all we know. In theory, you do have that other center, in Misa. And I will say this, having seen Misa play live now at least a couple of times, Misa has the tool set. I don't have any concern about that. Last night was a really good example of a game, and he's had a couple of these where his decision making is still a little stuck at the level that he's coming from. Right? Like, there was an instance in yesterday's game against the Avalanche where the Sharks really, really needed to start getting shots on net. He had the puck with an open lane, and he opted to pass it to it. And the other player wasn't aware he was going to pass it, and it ended up in a turnover. It was one of those where, like, everyone in the arena near me was, the second he got the puck, one, were excited because of where his placement in that zone, and two, were like, shoot, like, please. It was going back to like the Thornton era. So hopefully Misa does develop into that center, because I think Misa coming in affords much more so Will Smith to be a permanent wing, which, again, I agree with you, Ben. I think that's actually probably a better position for him at this level.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily know with Misa, right? Because as you shift these levels, some players' games translate, in different ways. There's all sorts of things that you have to look at. You could say the same probably about Askarov and the goaltending. Like, I'll tell you this much, having watched Askarov play a lot last year and this year live, Askarov has all the tools. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. He is extremely athletic. He's very fast. He's especially fast with the bottom half of his body going laterally. Upper half of the body, he could, stand to close his glove a little faster. He does give up quite a few rebounds on, when he's trying to glove the puck, and then he does lose sight of them. But I think part of it too is, he likes to try to help his team immediately, kind of like you do when you're young and you're playing like NHL video games, and like your first instinct is not to ice or to freeze the puck. It's to kind of like try to push it out, and inevitably it leads to goal the other way. That's one of those things where I think you can get away with that a little bit more at something like the AHL level, where the skill set isn't as good. Whereas here, if you do that near McKinnon, you can be toast. And I think he'll get over that. But it's just another example of like, hey, look, some of that aggressiveness that does work well at different levels. But then you hit the NHL level, things are faster, players are bigger, they are generally smarter. Not all of them, but enough of them. So it's interesting to see how all these guys' games translate. Celebrini is a great example of a player who was absolutely ready from day one. Definitely, sometimes. And I think we talked about this last podcast a little bit, maybe with the letter. Sometimes does put the team all on his back and maybe over try a little bit. And I think he'll settle there. He does have the skill level to pull it off. So not complaining about it. But, guys like Smith, it's like seeing, coming up, he was a center at the NCAA level. He was a center at the juniors, before that. NHL feels like he's more of a wing. Misa, I think too early to tell. To be honest, but I feel
pretty good about him at center, to be honest.
I feel really good about Misa
with Smith. Because I think Misa doesn't have the same shot either of those guys has, and needs to be. I think learning the distribution, and I think one thing I've been happy with Misa is his positioning in the defensive zone, which Smith has never figured out, right?
Yeah, and he's a puck hound. Like, I love how Misa is getting used to the physicality of the league, and he is always on the puck. You'll see him not get distracted with the cross-checky, slashy nonsense. he is always finding the puck, staying on it, making like not always the best thing happens once it leaves his stick, but he is getting
he's
to
young.
it. And
He's young.
18.
He's figured it
Yeah.
out, right? Like,
like
he's got 3 points in 7 games. I have nothing to complain about. You know,
No, not at all.
I think that I mean, aside from him not being on the on the roster enough, in the top 9, I think also the thing about Misa that's different from Smith is he can win a face-off. Celebrini doing pretty well in face-offs this year, but last year he wasn't great.
Was not great.
It took him the full year. Misa has kind of come on and just like, I win face-offs. It's what I do, which is a good sign, right? A face-off is just a puck battle, but still,
his intelligence, I think, is very high. His decision making needs to catch up, and it will. And I think I think like the thing that I'm encouraged about when I look at this last week in particular, but also in general, is all of the prospects that we are counting on right now becoming excellent franchise level players. I'm seeing across all of them that while most of them are not necessarily there today, there's very little doubt in my mind that they're going to get there based off of what I'm seeing. Because to your guys' point, Misa may still make a couple of bad decisions as far as, but he's 18 again, and he's only played a handful of games. But you can see that he understands where things are at this young age at a very high level. Askarov is very similar in that. Smith, obviously, I'm actually very happy with. I don't want to make this sound like a negative podcast.
Me too.
Smith.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Smith. And again, Celebrini was ready to go right out of the oven. That's what happens when you have a generational level player, which it's very clear that he is
at this point. He is. It's amazing. I mean, he's well over a point per game right now, you guys.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's so fun. Because the best part about the last few games, Celebrini, is you can see him getting better. It's something was bothering him because oh boy, the plot armor skating speed is coming back where he's like, oh, I suddenly need to be 10% faster. Well, let's fix that.
Yeah, I will.
Oh, this guy's huge. I need to figure out how to get around him. Oh, that wasn't so hard.
I will say one thing about that though, which is I love the fact that he's like, damn it, I'm going to go do it myself. That's great. And I think he does it still in a very team-oriented way. I will say that I have noticed, and especially being there live the last game, it was real noticeable that he was not getting off the ice. So, I do hope that as he continues to move forward, that he continues to find that balance of I need to do something, and also I need to manage my own workload and rest as well. Because the worst thing is when you get that the teams that have that one line that is an excellent line that just gets trapped way too long, and the sort of the percentage of them being able to complete what they're trying to do starts to drift because they start to get exhausted. He didn't look exhausted yesterday, which was great, and I'm not saying he looks exhausted in general, but it was very noticeable that dude wanted to be on the ice every second of the game. And that's going to be a challenge for him and coaches to manage because you get to the playoffs, those games are every other day usually, sometimes a two game break, but they're pretty brutal. Definitely want to I want him to continue to get smart about that. I think that's probably the one area that I see that he could really stand to kind of continue to develop is that understanding of, yes, you are the catalyst in 99% of the situations you are in. And that is a major positive, but also knowing when it's on you and knowing when, you need to allow another teammate to play. I'm not saying he's selfish. It's
time for a change, dude. Get off the ice.
Well,
you're totally right.
You see guys who are falling over, and you're like, just get off the ice, man. Take a break and come back stronger.
Yeah,
Honestly, this is in the last game. This is why I liked in some of the later power plays they didn't shift Celebrini.
Yeah,
it's just we're tied. A tie is not a bad thing. Let him sit. But the Celebrini needs a true Malkin, a true that other guy's on the ice. I'm gonna sit down and chill for a moment. But he also needs a Chris Kunitz, like this person who should not be seen as like one of the best sort of heavy lifting, greasy goal, like power kind of power forward wingers. But he was there and he took work off of Crosby. He was able to put the pucks in when he needs to. And like Smith is amazing. Smith is watching him disappear while everyone watches Celebrini is so much fun.
Oh yeah.
But it's just you need that wrecking ball. Like
Are you saying that
I hate this guy, but you
it?
need that Sam Bennett.
No, yeah, well, so I don't know that you need that necessarily. I think, the Sharks now have, when you look at the power play specifically, they have two lines that I think are totally, especially, this week with the emergence of sort of just the second line in general and Khrushchev really kind of coming in. But I think the Sharks have enough players on the forward core who are capable. Yeah, I mean, and plus they don't really want to roll their fourth line. Like they restrict those minutes pretty heavily on those guys. So like it's pretty clear that when the going gets tough, they're primarily rolling two lines and then they'll occasionally give the third. And I think that occasionally giving the third has a little more to do with just, Misa and others kind of getting, a little bit settled in there. But the thing is that like they have enough players where he doesn't necessarily need to do that. Now, again, he seems fine. And actually I want to point something out. One of the funniest things about the game last night was I turned to my wife and I was like, I would normally say that when you have Smith and Celebrini on the ice, it's so telegraphed. But at the same time, because Celebrini never looks in any general direction of where he's going to play, it's not telegraphed because because he's just completely looking at the other. If I were other teams, I would literally coach my players, when we're looking at the matchup and reviewing tape, ahead. And I'd be like, okay, every direction Celebrini looks in is not where he's going to pass. Just expect it to go in the opposite direction because he plays out of he has to completely play out of the corner of his eye or by smell. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't have that. And then again, like you look at like Toffoli is very capable, Wenberg is very capable, Eklund is very capable. Again, Khrushchev's popping up. Khrushchev to me is not going to like lead necessarily there.
No.
He is more of that.
He's a complementary piece and
a good one.
He is a fourth liner cosplaying as a fourth liner on
Khrushchev
on the team that we need to be on the team
Khrushchev
that we are. He's top six.
Eaten alive on a fourth line the way they're deployed. So
yeah.
Oh yeah. But like the team we need to be to go into the playoffs, he is not our top six.
No, I
think I'm okay with that.
We started talking about this before we potted, so why don't we just kind of get into it here? Because a couple of things happened this week. Well, one, a little bit of cycling of Misa and Dickinson, and there were definitely fans that looked at that as a coaching thing. And I think some of us were aware that like, well, hold on a second, Misa and Dickinson have a maximum number of games they can play before the Sharks need to either keep them or send them down. But the Sharks also overstuff their contracts, which basically means that they can't play those games until the Sharks move something out to free up the space. Now, why are the Sharks going up to the contract maximum seemingly every 5 seconds? Why would Greer handcuff himself? Well, my theory, and I'm not necessarily saying it's correct, but I just have a hunch based off of the type of players that they keep picking up, and Khrushchev being a good example of one of them, is that when you've got the Sharks have basically been fortunate in going from the worst prospect pool, never getting high draft picks because they were good for forever, to having that, reverse and actually drafting well. What that means is that the Sharks are going to get the players that we keep calling out are going to get expensive, likely at the same time. Hopefully a couple of them will be willing to take discounts. Yeah, the cap's also going up, obviously. So there's that you can kind of look at. That's pretty much, I think, part of why Eklund took the contract he took, was want to see what's going on here and also want to make more money, potentially later.
But, I mean, also bless you, Saint McDavid. Like,
I guess I don't think that they're all that linked there, but what that means is that, like, because you are going to be very top-loaded contract-wise with the Sharks, and we've been there before, and it was not great. Granted, we were top-loaded way when those guys were on their way downs. You do need to still have, a full roster that is playing with these guys. And so I suspect, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the way I would approach it or necessarily great in terms of how the team is evaluating things. But if you look, a lot of the players that the Sharks have been picking up, yes, some have been like just straight questionable, but a lot in the last couple of years, especially under Greer, have been players that were either formerly high draft picks or formerly highly touted prospects who came in and either weren't getting playing time, were injured, or maybe just weren't gelling with whatever system. And so they seem to be accumulating a lot of these guys because they're not sure which ones are actually good, which of those were actually in situational, positions, or which of them were just, again, their game didn't translate. Kurashev being a nice example of one where the dude gets like 54 points, and then he's a little bit banged up that next season. Chicago makes a decision to cut him loose. Now you look at that and you go, okay, well, one of two things is true here. Either that 54-point season was fluky, or the next season was fluky. And so grabbing a guy like that, which is very low risk, very potentially high reward, makes sense. Now, when you're hoarding those, which is what I think the Sharks are doing, because they are trying to get those, diamonds in the rough, that's when you do find yourself in the contract situation they are now, which at this point, if they don't make a move in the next couple of days here, which I'm sure they can do, now you are starting to limit to some extent Misa and Dickinson's development. They're still up on the pro roster. Yeah, they're still practicing with the team. Yes, you're still probably giving them, additional special training to make up for, lack of playing time because they can't necessarily go in until they make this move. But that's why they're in there. So Kurashev again is a good example, because I think if you talk to fans the first half of this first third of a season, weren't necessarily digging him. Now, all of a sudden, absolutely loving him because he is starting to find that scoring touch. He is starting to gel. He is starting to kind of pull his weight, and he is starting to look like one of those players, almost like I hesitate to compare him to Zetterlund because I think he's better right now. But, Zetterlund was another player where once you put him in the right situation, he could start to perform.
What's interesting to me about that is, as you said, either the 54-point season is a fluke or the injury-riddled season is a fluke. And I don't think in the NHL you can fluke your way to 54 points, right, in 75-ish games or whatever.
I would say this, not on that roster.
Yeah.
There are,
and it's not like
there are other rosters where, yes, you can, but not on that roster.
And he wasn't playing a lot with Bedard that year either, which is by the way, let me tell you, Chicago fans are super mad about anybody who questions the Blackhawks' decision to move on from Kurashev. I have found this out because my Twitter feed has been flooded by the very stupidest Chicago Blackhawks fans you have ever seen.
No one likes to be wrong.
Oh my God. And they hate Kurashev. Like one bad year and that franchise fans were like happy to see him go. And
that franchise should slow down and remember the bad years, because they had a lot of them, and they had years where you couldn't even watch them on television. So,
the upside for that is they're going into bad years and staying in bad years. So,
they deserve it.
God love them.
Like, I hope Bedard gets out of there because he's pretty good, but he needs to.
See, I think the difference is, though, I think where we would maybe deviate from the team in that sort of logic is that I think our feeling, and I don't think this is a hot take for our podcast here. I think our feeling is you've already found a handful of those players, and those are the ones that you can already be really playing. So, for example, Cardwell is a really good example of one where I don't think the team is trying to make up their mind on Cardwell. I get the sense that they know what they have there. Therefore, they're not necessarily trying to rush him in, because there are other players that they are trying to figure out. Now, I don't know that I would make that decision. I would much rather have Cardwell up personally than down. But I can also understand, well, if you, let's say, let's look at Smith last year, where they were telling you what they were going to do. They were like, look, we're going to play him a bunch, and then we're going to sit him a bunch and give him extra training. And that's going to be our development methodology. We do believe in him as a player. So we're not concerned about that. We're not necessarily him sitting is not always indicative of we're unhappy or bad play, and he's probably aware of where those are. So Cardwell is a player that, that may be in that position, as are, a couple of others. But then you do have the other ones like Iorio and others that they grabbed, and you're sort of like, they're still trying to evaluate. I would hope personally that they would be better at evaluating to the point where that isn't what they're doing. But if you're going to do that, then this is a year where you can technically afford to do that. Starting next year,
I think
you kind of need to start having more of this figured out, especially with the offseason you're hoping to have.
I think the problem isn't, taking a flyer on a guy like Kurashev, because I think that is a manageable risk. I think the problem is that they're taking flyers on players that nobody else can see why the fuck they're taking flyers on them, right?
Yeah.
Like this Iorio guy who is never going to be, and that's pretty clear from, his stats up to this point, and the fact that he was on goddamn waivers. Like, what the fuck are you doing when you've got a guy like Luca Cagnoni who would instantly make this team better? Even if he's not playing right defenseman, you move somebody else to their offhand and benefit from a guy who can actually exit the zone. That's the problem,
I think Luca is where Cardwell is. I think they know what they have with him, and so like that's not one they're trying to. I agree with you, Ben. I would absolutely have Cagnoni up. I mean,
what position are they trying to fill? Right, like if they're bringing guys like Iorio in instead of elevating.
First of all, look at their defense right now. So let's just say for a second here, right? Okay, so you have Dickinson coming in, right? Okay, fair. You have Cagnoni. Okay, fair. You maybe not this year, and we don't know if his game will translate, but you hopefully have Polkamp kind of in that conversation.
Sure.
But you still, your defense is that's what, 3 guys out of your necessary defense. And look, they're going to fill part of that up with vets too, obviously. That's what teams do that. Like they want to find a balance typically. You have Orlov, okay. I would argue you don't have much else there. Like obviously not the current players, right? So like Ferraro definitely has a level of physicality that some of the other defensemen don't necessarily always bring. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I don't think he's good personally. Letty's
not terrible.
Not at all.
Klingberg is terrible.
Klingberg, they seem to be really relying on 2QB, especially in power play, scenarios. And I'll say this, between him and Orlov, I think he's better at that role than Orlov is. I think Orlov's a much better defenseman in general. But I don't think Klingberg's a permanent fixture, right? So it seems like the 2 areas where they are still trying to uncover those, and again, I think they're looking for the low budget options on that right now. Offseason might be different. I think is trying to figure out, still the 4th and 3rd line to some extent, maybe a little less the 3rd line based off of this year, and the rest of that defensive core. And I get it, but also I would hope you would be, I don't know. I would hope scouting would be a little stronger in that the swings you're taking, like you have a little more confidence in them. I'm not getting the sense they have confidence in a lot of those pickups. I think they're just grabbing them because, again, it's like a video game where you're like, oh, that person's 24 and on waivers. Okay. And they were maybe supposed to be like, pretty decent or consistent. Sure. Okay, fine. But in video games, you often don't have contract maximums that you're watching out for because they're pretty sloppy with that. So, it's something to look out for the Sharks. If you look at the Barracuda right now, I mean, McCarthy not proving to be a very good coach. And so,
really?
Yeah, right. I know. and I would say that would also be a fair counter to how they are actually doing it. Because if you do, let's say, hey, listen, Cardwell, we're pretty confident in you, but we need you down here for a year. I wouldn't be so concerned if the coaching down there was adequate and building to the NHL squad. I don't think they're doing that.
Well,
good times.
The problem is on both sides with Barracuda and the Sharks. So starting with the Sharks is what is the spine, what is the structure, and what are the things we need? Smith and Hillenbrand are awesome. Eklund is just an end-to-end hard worker, and Misa is a surprise, and Graf is a nice defensive forward addition. But like we spent a bunch of time here saying, how do these pieces go together? The complaint I have is Warsofsky doesn't seem to like putting these pieces together or finding roles or identifying people as role players. And then we look at the Barracuda, it's like, okay, we have these guys who could absolutely fill roles we need to fill, but nobody's actually, like, nothing's settling. And I said before, at like 5 games, 10 is the like heartbeat of this league. We've now played 10. Team seems to be what we thought it was, but like, let's see some bones start to form, and not just be the cookies and milk line with somebody.
I mean, I think the spine of the Sharks is pretty clear, and I think what fans need to do is not necessarily freak out moment to moment about that spine, because that spine is developing. I think it's less that. I think it has, it does have much more to do with, okay, well, who are the supporting characters? And I actually want to answer something real quick. So Dave actually just, and I just saw you address it too, Ben, although I have a slightly different take. Dave asks, if Klingberg's better at the power play QB, then why are they 0-9 since his return, and why are they operating 50% while he's out? That's a totally fair question. Here's what I'll say. With your options right now, Klingberg is a much better skater. He's a pretty good passer. He's not bad at setting players up. I don't like his shot. Like Orlov's shot, much better. But he's also doing it on a line where you have, to Ben, to your point, first of all, you have like Macklin and Smith, like you're stacked on the forward side, and a lot of times they're running with 4 forwards there and a fifth. Now the problem is when there's a turnover, what happens? Well, he's fast enough to get back. Orlov's better. Orlov is slower. And I would argue Orlov isn't a great QB either. So I think that's why they're leaning on him. Now, again, who would I rather have there? Kenyon
Dickinson.
I don't know that Dickinson's quite ready for that, but you know what I mean? Yeah, but
you know how he doesn't become ready? Is you never try him.
Well, he's an offensive-minded defenseman, right? So yes, you want to get there. I totally agree. But yeah, so anyway, so I do think that it is truly a lot more about figuring out who is your short to medium supporting cast, and then who is your potential longer term supporting cast. Like I do look at some of the players here. Like I like Wenberg a lot. I like Skinner. I don't think Skinner's very long for this roster. I think Skinner's probably gone to the trade deadline.
I hope not.
Oh yeah, I know, but like, do you which of these players who are popping up who are a little bit more in the veteran state, which of these do you view as, the Sharks I think are looking at probably still about a 3-year, I think starting last year was more of like a 3 to 4 year plan, right? So those 3 to 4 years, are those players still going to be capable of playing at that level? I have no idea, but I think that's what they're trying to solve more than anything. I do think the spine, your goaltending look, regardless of how you feel about Askarov now, he does have the tools. So if they continue, and he's young, and they do develop later. So if he does continue to develop, your goaltending is in a pretty good position. Defense, one player, yes, and the rest you still got to figure out. Maybe Polkamp or Kenyoni. Hopefully, yeah. So 2 or 3, fine, half your defense. Forwards, I think it's a lot easier personally, and I've always thought this. It's a lot easier to fill out your forward core than it is your D core. There are always forwards available. Always.
Yeah, absolutely. There are other Jeff Skinners out there, and there will be in the free agency. But let's look at Papa Toffoli. We've got him for 2 more seasons after this one. And part of the reason you want people like Toffoli, and I hate to say it, Goodrow, even Reeves, well, we're losing him after this season, but like Goodrow and Toffoli, is also to help the kids see playoff hockey, because it is a different beast. And you need people on your bench who, your younger players are familiar with, being like, all right, you thought all these giant high speed talented people were playing mean before. Nah, now comes the fun stuff, kids. And we need to see that transition part for this roster. And we need to see Smith, Celebrini, Misa, Graf, Dickinson, the rest all in playoff hockey with the team. We're like, oh yeah, like for the most part, this is them. Let's now complain about the fifth defenseman for the next four seasons.
I mean, look, this year to me is still a purgatory year. We picked up a bunch of vets with the hope of likely flipping most of them at the trade deadline for just added value. And again, I think because of the way the cap shifted suddenly last offseason, I think next season is where Greer is going to go big and start looking at more of those long-term guys. And maybe some of these guys, I look at Wennberg as a really good example. I've been really happy with Wennberg. I've been really happy with Toffoli. Maybe there are ways to have these guys kind of continue as a little bit more than just a bridge. I don't know, but I think that's what the Sharks are still trying to solve.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know that I would move a forward at all. Like if I had my wish, Greer doesn't answer the phone to any inquiry for a forward, right? Like it's get Ferraro out the fucking door and maybe get somebody to take either Klingberg or Leddy. I don't care which, maybe both. 2-for-1 sale. You want a 7th rounder for both those guys? Sweet, let's go.
I have a feeling, Ben. just because of the visual that the Sharks are going to actually be able to get something for Klingberg. And I'm not saying I think Klingberg's good,
maybe,
but
I think more so
he looks a lot better on the ice than he actually is. And I think teams don't know. With that.
He's a turnover
No,
machine,
I agree with
you
that.
Can't miss that.
Like Klingberg has these moments when he almost looks like an offensive defenseman when he's got the puck and he's trying.
He's very engaged.
Yeah, he has these flashes, and there's always a dumber GM. And
no, Cece's playing. I mean, come on, right? Like,
yeah, like
oh my god.
So we'll have to find out how Klingberg does with the ladies, but I'm hoping we do flip as much as we possibly can, and the kids get their time to learn, because kids make mistakes, and I am still terrified of the Pacific Division just eating itself. Just you look at Canucks, you look at Ducks, you look at Kings a little bit. Like these teams are like one bad flu season or one bad team dinner from just eating themselves. And suddenly people are talking about us in places we shouldn't be. Yeah. And I don't want to be there. I want to be where we are, scoring a shitload of goals that are super fun while, comfortably on the basement couch.
So let's talk about that, because we have some games here, and I also want to answer another active listener's question that was asked during the podcast. So Sharks had a bunch of games this week, fairly good week when you look at it. So we're going to start this with their game against the Minnesota Wild. The Sharks end up winning this one in overtime by a score of 6-5. They had goals in the first period by Eklund and Misa. And then, in the latter half, actually, almost the very end of that first period, Minnesota would score 2, so it's 2-2 going into the second. Then Eklund scores again, and then Ryan Reeves, surprise, surprise. So the Sharks are up, and then third period, Minnesota scores, and then Toffoli scores, and then Minnesota scores 2, and then we go into overtime, and Celebrini basically goes, F this, I'm taking the puck and ending this now.
Whoa, wait a second.
And he does. That's what he did.
You missed the prelude.
You missed.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I know.
You missed a very important part.
I skipped over the fact that at no point in time that overtime could the Sharks seemingly get a shot on net.
Or get out of their zone.
We'll get out of their zone.
3.5 minute shift with Eklund just literally melting on the ice.
Great call by Randy and Dan. Dan's call. Those guys.
Yeah.
We're going to miss those guys.
God. But no, Eklund just taking the puck and going. I mean, it hasn't been since Marlowe, and I don't know what game. I couldn't remember anything, but it was back in Marlowe's first few years where when you would see Marlowe in that situation, you're like, oh, okay, we're winning. It's done. We
Are you
got
talking
it. We're
about the
good.
breakaway?
Like Marlowe breakaways when he
Yeah,
was
okay.
young.
Yeah. I'm
Like,
over this, and I'm fast, so I'm just gonna go.
yeah,
in charge.
you're just like
Yeah.
we're good. Like if you're watching the game and you see that Marlowe breakaway, like, and you're in a rush, like you're in a bad parking spot in the garage or something, you're already up out of your chair. You know we've won,
It's a very
and that's what
specific scenario.
Celebrini is.
Yeah. Well, okay. So here, because I want to ask before we go on the next game, because the next game is going to be very counter to this. But the question from listener Alex is, what's the deal with the low shots on goal? Now, I would argue this week that actually wasn't as big of an issue as it was, previous week when you look at the overall. But I will say this: the Sharks are shooting in spurts. Like there are points where they are not getting a lot on net, and then all of a sudden they're getting 1,000 shots on net. Not 1,000; it's too high of a number. I don't know about you guys. I would argue it is two things mostly. One is the defensive side of the ice. Again, they're either stuck in their own zone, having trouble getting it out, or they get it out and they don't always have that transition support. And so that doesn't help. They also do, by the way, in their own zone, they do bobble the puck out of the zone a lot on really dumb little, like, just miss stick plays and stuff like that. They did that a lot yesterday. The other thing I would also say is, and tell me if I'm off base with this, but I feel like, particularly with the first and second line right now, those two lines are a little more methodical with their play setup and passing. And so, I'll use yesterday as a really good example. There were points where they definitely could have shot more and probably should have shot more and didn't. But when you've got someone like Celebrini, like you see a lot of plays where it's like they'll cycle, and then set up oh my God, I can't believe that didn't go in, like, moment. So I think it's a combination of those two. But that's my 2 cents. What about you guys?
Well, I forget where I first heard this season, but it was pointed out that the shots per game has sort of trended down over the last few seasons, and with the idea being teams are looking for higher quality shots because counterattacks are just so nasty and rebounds can be unpredictable. I see that a little bit around the league, but I just think I don't think this team plays for position very well. Like, we don't fight for the ice where, no matter where we are, defensive, neutral, offensive zone. And so we end up having to do, as you say, make these amazing passes and, hope the shot goes in. And it just, we don't have any net front presence. So it's part of the fact that I don't like whoever is setting out the offensive systems for this team. Whoever is not setting up the defensive systems needs to try something. But we're not generating shots because we're looking for the perfect shot, and that is the type of hockey I think doesn't
I think
when you have to be there.
I think I have a slightly different viewpoint on that, though. So I will agree with you that the net front presence, I mean, I do think Toffoli's there a lot because you see him, pushing the tip. And the Sharks do crash the net quite a bit when, they have an opportunity to. I think a lot of it might have to do partially, too, with the fact that you have, really young players like Will Smith and Celebrini who, my 2 cents is that the younger you are, the dumber you are in a positive way. And so therefore you're willing to take a lot more creative risks. And when you've got a person like Celebrini who can pass it, and Will Smith who can pass it, and Eklund, who can pass it, I think, I think it's a little bit more them trying to, them being creative. And I do think it leads to a lot of good opportunities. Unfortunately, they don't always go in. And sometimes they don't count as shots either, because it just has to be on net to be counted as a shot. So
But but we need to have that traffic in front. And I agree with you on Misa. Like,
Oh yeah, I agree.
Between Smith and Misa makes 1 inch of height difference feel like 4. Like, he plays big for a kid in this league, and he likes to be in front of the net and around the goalie, and he is always on the puck. So, like, I love him for a net front player, but like, we have him and we kind of have Graf, and as we've said, Graf just has that challenge. So the team just in general is not a team made to generate and capitalize off a lot of scores, a lot of activity. And I would like us to find those pieces that let us start to do that, because I think once you up the energy and chaos level in the offensive zone, you're going to see Celebrini go even more insane. And I for one would like to see that.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you guys want to know the real reasons why we can't get shots on goal?
Because we have a bunch of terrible plugs.
It's not the young guys. They're not the problem.
No.
At all, right? So it is that our fourth line contributes absolutely nothing. Like, they don't get shots on net, and they also can't keep the zone. And our defensemen are generally useless on getting shots on goal. Every time Mario Ferraro loads up and throws a puck 5 feet wide of the net, like, that puck's going the other way, right?
Right.
So
yeah. Right.
there is a piece where it is the Sharks are having trouble even getting out of their own zone. I think you're dead right on that. And that's what I would have pegged a lot of it on it. And then I dug into the stats a bit while you guys were chatting, and
you realize that it's unfortunate Ryan Reeves just went on the injured list, and Cardwell's coming up because Ryan Reeves is technically still in the goal chase with Connor McDavid, who only has 3 goals. Is that what you were going to say?
That is just some goofy.
I mean,
stuff
I'm not sad about that.
Hey, listen, Connor's got 3, Ryan's got 2. You don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, Ben.
So I think that primarily the main issue is you've got 1.5 lines that can get a cycle going, right? Because that's where you generate shots. Is you get a shot on net, you recover the puck, and you keep it in the zone, which the Sharks are just terrible at. Right. Whether that's offensive zone structure or the fact that our defensemen are generally useless at providing an outlet, that's the main thing, right? So can't get the puck out of our own zone to save our lives half the time. Though that's been better, with some injuries that have forced Warsawski to stop playing shit bags like Leddy. And also, I think some of the young guys are gelling a little bit with their lines and doing a little bit better of holding the zone themselves. And anytime you've got Mook Madulin and or Dick in the game, then you're going to have an easier time holding the zone and getting the puck out of your own zone, and thus get more shots, at least theoretically. Not that I trust either of those guys to actually shoot the puck on net at the moment, because poor Dick is just pass first, I think, at this point, and I think he's being coached to do that. So,
well, listen, speaking of needing more shots on goal, the next game, the Sharks had 40 to the Kings 14. They did lose that game, though. The Sharks got goals from Will Smith and the rise of Kurashev. That's when that really was kind of started there.
Kurashev supremacy.
Yeah, and Wenberg, but they still lost what was a very frustrating heartbreaker of a loss there. Any thoughts on this game?
I don't like any game where Corey Perry scores.
Yeah, and I don't like hearing the announcers, and I don't like it being on the this is the SBN, right? And it started late. And
no matter where Corey Perry is, I don't like him. And being on the Kings, it's just,
yeah.
I think my favorite part about this is it is the only game this year where we have massively outshot the other side, and of course we lose that game. and then
yeah, right.
the opposite occurs against two of the top teams in the league. and
Well,
we
let's
win
talk
those,
about
so.
let's talk about this. Let's talk about this Devils game here, because the Sharks win this 5-2. Now there were a couple of moments where I'm like, "Up, this is where it starts. This is where the collapse happens." It didn't, but I would say, watching this game, my youngest kept coming in and goes, he was watching it in spurts and then going out and playing with friends. He was like, "Are the Sharks? Are they playing good against the Devils?" And I was like, "Yeah,
sort of,
kinda, sorta." They got goals from Eklund again, the rise of Khrushchev, Wenberg again. So those three high, Will Smith and Tyler Toffoli. But there were points. Look, this granted. I think the Devils were on the second game of a back-to-back.
yeah.
But the Sharks, they looked potent here in a way that they hadn't really looked potent before. So I think that was exciting to see, because at that point, the Devils were sitting at number 2. I think they're number 3 now, thanks to us. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I saw this and I was just expecting us to lose this game, maybe put up an okay effort. Was not expecting a 5-2 win.
I think the game opening with Eklund, having one of those
42 seconds
score moments and scoring exactly like the superstar player he is, even though, Alice feels.
I knew you were going to say that. You know what? If that motivated Eklund, I will take it. I will take it. In fact, you know what? You know what? Fuck Letty. Fuck Ferraro. How can we get all these guys doing that? Is that what you want me to do?
Eklund really is one of our main listeners, so he's got a burner account on Twitter. He interacts with me all the time. So.
I don't think, I'm very serious when I say this season, I don't know that I've seen a player on the roster work harder than Eklund is engaged in pretty much every shift, all the way through those shifts.
I think Eklund goes on the we'll see what the sort of the actual official coverage and storylines are that the talking heads talk about by February. I think Eklund's going on the most underrated player of the league list by the end of this season.
Maybe.
I don't think he's going to be underrated. I mean, if he finishes with 82 points,
yeah, exactly.
But it would be hard for him to be underrated. I think even more.
Everyone's going to be surprised to see him there. I
think by the end of the season, people are going to realize he was the second best player in the 2021 draft.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. And you're talking about where he'll end up, and that isn't counting how close he's getting on all the opportunities too. If those go in, his numbers would be absolutely insane right now. So
people go crazy for Dylan Guenther on I guess it's Utah now, right? How good he's been being picked 9th in that draft.
Yeah.
Eklund is 1 point shy of Guenther in 30 fewer games, right? So he's going to just blow past McTavish and Guenther. And both Beniers and McTavish have played way more games. He may get past them this year.
He was very vocal.
Insane.
He was very vocal about this season wanting to take the next step forward, and I think it really shows how focused and dedicated he is to making that happen. The Sharks would go from this to the game I was at yesterday. Where they beat the Colorado Avalanche 3-2 in overtime. Let me tell you something. That was a fun live game, not just because it was one of the family games, because it was a 1:00 game. Whoever's now managing the Jumbotron animations, big thumbs up to you, because there was it was very fun and very hilarious. They got goals from Celebrini again. Hi, Khrushchev. Now, 2 from Khrushchev, because Khrushchev also scored the game winner, which I also called with my family. They will attest to that. But can one of you guys explain to me, because I can tell you right now, live, it was very, very, very confusing. There's not a soul in that arena that understood the second Colorado goal.
They fucked it.
Because I'll tell you this. Not only did they fuck that up, the reffing after that was atrocious.
It was garbage. Yeah,
the whole game was. But here's
bad. Here's what gets me with that. Here's what gets me with that goal. The second it occurred, my reaction was, I'm willing to bet the Sharks have a penalty here for delay of game, essentially.
Yep.
I could see that. I could understand that. So first they confer. There was no, at least as far as I or anyone else could see, there was no on ice goal called at all.
It was the opposite. They waved it
Right.
off on the
Right,
ice, as far as I can
exactly.
recall.
So then they skate out. They confirm they skate out, and they said that the call on the ice was a goal. So they're going to go review it. And I was like, but it wasn't a goal. You didn't call it a goal.
Yeah.
Then they review it. How do you watching the replay? I was like,
Yeah.
how?
Well, they
I've
straight
never
lie
seen-
too. The ref straight lies. Like that puck is not crossed the line.
It's not going
before-
towards the line at that point.
Before the net is off, but their call on the after the review was the puck was already in the net before the net moved. So it's like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me?
Well, not
And then
only
they wouldn't
so-
talk to Warsofsky.
I know,
Like-
yeah, I
Yep.
saw that. And Celebrini was pissed off too. Here's the thing was the puck wasn't even going into the net when the net was knocked off its
Right.
mooring. It had
Exactly.
stopped and it was like behind Askarov, and it wasn't until after the net is off that I can't even remember who it was, but comes in and not,
It was
and,
McKinnon, I think.
but like the net had already been off for like what felt like at least 3 seconds. It was so maddening, and you could just see the
I mean-
frustration on the Sharks.
Here's the thing. I think it should have been a goal because it doesn't matter that it's an accident. Skinner took the net off and it looks intentional.
Well, that'd be a penalty.
So
That'd be a penalty in that scenario.
Sure.
That wouldn't be. I've never seen that
it's-
called a
it's-
goal.
I have never seen it called a goal either, but in fact, I'm sure the Sharks have gotten fucked on something like that at some point, and I was super mad about it, but it probably should have been a goal. I mean,
Yeah, fine.
there was no
fair,
question
McKinnon's there.
that was going to go in the net. None.
Well, I think that was their argument. I want to point one other thing out that I know, which was a funny moment and also a terrifying moment, and I know fans are picking on goalies right now.
Oh God. I know what
here's
you're
the
talking
thing.
about.
Oh,
Yeah. Can I point? So first of all, it was pretty funny watching Askarov and laugh
my
Matt off.
ass
He was
off.
laughing his ass off.
man.
But can I point? But I do want to point one thing out about that, because I know I was earlier saying, hey, Askarov could probably ease up on the aggressiveness. Him going out, I know people see that and go, "Don't go out and play that." He actually needs to in that scenario. That's actually again, that is the correct call. If he does not, that is immediately going to be picked up by the Avalanche, and it's going to be on net. So he does again. We saw this with Ned. We saw this with Askarov a little bit. I feel bad because there have been a number of times where the goalie has made the correct move, and it's just something. I don't know if he just hits a piece of ice or what.
The ice looked pretty bad.
Great,
There were guys
great
tripping and
recovery.
slipping all over the place.
Yeah, but for those of you going, don't go out and play that. No, actually, that was the correct thing to do. He just ate it and then had to get back. And in fairness, because he is so athletic, he did go back and then he lapped off. I will say this about Askarov. One of the things that I like about him a lot outside of his skills is that he doesn't really seem like he gets rattled or bothered. Like he has this sort of like sense of humor about him. And again, like on that, he was literally, you could see, I don't know if they showed it on for you guys on TV. They did for us on the Jumbotron. He was like laughing hysterically because he realized how stupid and crazy that situation was. Yeah. But like, you know what? A lot of other goals would be like, fucking on edge. And he was just like, nope, shit happens. It reminded me of our former goalie, who was like, we're all going to die. Like, it's just that attitude is, you do want to have that confidence and
You're
that bounce
talking
back
about
ability.
Bob. But like, oh no, you're not.
No, it was the
sorry,
young
my
kid.
bad.
Now I'm thinking it was
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, so I'll tell you what, this game was a lot of fun to watch. It was encouraging in spurts. Yes, there were spurts where it just seemed like they needed to shoot. Yep, there were a couple of instances that I think every one of those players would like to have back. But overall, they fought through it. They win a game. Kurashev, looks great. Smith looks great. Macklin, looks great. I mean, again, if you told me that we would win both games against the Avs and the Devils, I'd probably be like, maybe if we get lucky, we'll split it.
I mean, but this is the thing that's heartbreaking, I think, as a Sharks fan right now, right? Is that there are the things that are clearly great. Celebrini, Smith, and Eklund playing out of their minds all at the same time and showing the potential of this for a decade, right? That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you've got the organization dicking with Sam, no pun intended.
Like we did,
and also will do this with Misa because they've put themselves in this position of too many contracts while also doing it with shitty defensemen, right? Where what we can see on the ice now is that the offense is incredible. You know, people around the league are like, if the Sharks can ever figure out how to defend, the league's in trouble. But it's not the problem is they can't learn to defend because the guys that are bad
they don't have the guys to do it with.
They're bad. But they don't have to, right? Like we could have Cagnoni up in this lineup. We could consistently have Shakir and Dickinson in this lineup, and we'd be a competent defense. And maybe we don't want that, right? Because we want to, get Gavin McKenna, but
well, I don't think it's McKenna, but I think, again, if this last offseason, Greer made it sound like it was going to be the building offseason, and it really didn't end up that way. So it's probably this next one. I will say this, watching Mook play yesterday off the puck, I get it, Ben, but I'm not 100% convinced yet either. Like
I know you guys aren't, and this is where the eye test fucks you guys.
Sure.
His underlying stats are really good.
Fair, but I'll tell you what, he looks lost off the puck. He looked lost off the puck yesterday, like frequently, and was frequently slow. And there are points where I'm like, "You're so close to being right there. Just go there." But again, ADD. Okay, guys, 3 stars here. Can I go first? I want to go first.
Absolutely.
Go first.
All right. So my 3rd star, there's a lot of people this week that I think you could give stars to. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give my 3rd star to Askarov. I think Askarov had a great game yesterday, and I think Askarov, I think he's going to be a good goaltender. Does he let a few in that I'm sure he would like to have back? Yes. Has he admitted as much? Yes. But I thought he played pretty well this week. My 2nd star is going to be Kurashev. Now, you might be thinking, Alex, why is it not your 1st star? And that's because the second line, this week, the emergence of them, to me, is more exciting than Kurashev. Not to say I don't think Kurashev had an awesome week. I absolutely did, and I've obviously been gushing about him for this podcast. But so far the Sharks have really been like a 1.5 sort of line team with the potential of being more. Now it looks like you have 2 extremely potent lines who both stepped up bigly against, 2 of the best teams in the NHL. And that's good news because when you take into consideration that now you've got Meeson and a couple of others that you can start kind of, building that 3rd line with, again, and kind of, as I said in the beginning of this podcast, the Sharks could have 3 extraordinarily capable forward lines tomorrow if they really wanted to. And, the second line stepping up, I think we'd all seen the players on the second line and had thought like, any minute now, please. And I think they took that step here. And so I think, I'm almost more excited about the second line than the first line all of a sudden for today's game. But that's just my take. Your guys' 3 picks.
So my third pick is going to Brent Burns for giving Celebrini the opportunity to practice against a, giant defensive man with great reach who still has some speed.
Boy, my wife was like, did he get fat? And I go, I've always been a really big guy.
Yeah. But watching how Celebrini managed the gap with Burns, and there were three runs almost back to back where Celebrini approached it differently each time. You could just see him downloading it. I'm just oh yes, learn. Hedman is still in the league.
There was that one time he walked Burns into the crease basically, and if Celebrini had scored there, that would have been a goal of the year.
Exactly. But it's against somebody who has such size and reach on him, and it's such a good learning experience for Celebrini. So valuable. The second pick is going to the ghost that was tripping Celebrini.
Oh yeah, man.
That guy was doing that guy girl.
That guy's got to learn to use his stick appropriately. Am I right?
The angered ferret that used to live where the SAP Center was built. I don't know who or what this ghost was, but wow, it was working hard. It was getting the job done. Props to that ghost because I have not seen.
It's
a
weird,
honking
Colin, because I
Batman
could
in
see
a
that
while.
ghost, and it had an opponent
Now I-
uniform on every time.
Now I
so-
kind of want to give Colin the 3rd star for that joke. Ben, you're
Um,
oh, go. Oh, sorry, Colin. Keep going.
And my first pick is another tie between just Eklund's general performance and Celebreny's
Yeah, I love
overtime
Eklund.
breakaway goal.
I
Like
love
I
Eklund.
can't say it enough. Like Eklund is just he is it. He is our Nugent Hopkins, and I'm loving what's that saying about our team, because we have so many just equally shockingly good forwards younger than him,
Let me
looking at him
let
and
me
like,
put
following that.
let me summarize it as this, Colin. For a team that's as bad as they are, it's pretty challenging to figure out who to get on your new sweater. Because there are, you could go sell it. I just received a gift that was a Celebrity sweater, so I'm good. But like, if someone asked me today, hey, who would you get? I'd be like, well, I mean, if you just want to be 100% safe, then Celebrini's your person. But like, boy, you got a lot of acceptable options there. Eklund, absolutely. Smith, sure. Misa, yeah. Askarov, yeah, makes sense. You want to go a little, you want Papa Toffoli, that's fine. I get it. You know what I mean? Like Dickinson, you could do that. Sure. Like, and this is again, we'll get to the standings soon, but not a great team. Ben, your 3 stars.
Would it be a jersey foul to get a Toffoli number jersey with Papa instead of Toffoli?
No. There was actually someone at the tank that had one just like that.
All right.
Yeah.
So my 3rd star is going to go to Kurashev. What a week. What a week. My 2nd star, I think I agree with you guys. I'm going to give it to Eklund just because I agree that he has been probably the most tenacious Shark forward, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
And then my 1st star, because I'm enjoying pissing off Chicago Blackhawks fans this week, is to the Chicago Blackhawks for being fucking morons and letting Philip Kurashev walk for nothing. For nothing.
Am I surprised that Ben used the 1st star for evil? No. Not really. Not at the end of the day, but I applaud you for that. Okay, we gotta get moving here. Okay, so where are the Sharks? Oh, Colin, you were gonna say something.
No. Fuck Chicago.
Yeah, there you go. Good. Although I will say our goal song is equally as annoying as Chelsea Dagger, and not in the right way.
And bad.
Sorry. I won't call this out. They spent all this time making a new song just to get Hayes in there, and whether you like the song or not, I don't care. Not a fan in that arena was doing Hayes on the hay. Not a one. You can like it that it's annoying. That's fine. But you're going to spend all the trouble to get to, because they're still trying to catch that old school rock and roll part 2, all the fists of hay. No one was doing the Hayes. No one. They weren't upset, but they were not doing the Hayes. Waste of time. Now, the Sharks.
The theme song should be the Gummy Bears soundtrack. Come on. We've discussed this in Discord. The Gummy Bears opening theme is the perfect goal song for the Sharks.
We're moving on, Colin. Where are the Sharks in the standings right now? Well, you look at the overall standings in the draft pick race. They are 30th. They have 10 points. Calgary's in last with 6 points. The St. Louis Blues are behind them with 8 points. And then just above them, tied are the Wild and the Islanders at 11. And then there's a 3-way tie for 12 points. So the Sharks can kind of bounce around here. You want to talk about where that bottom 10 is. They can move if they keep playing the way that they're playing. So watch out, Colin. And then, yes, you can point out that I was wrong about this later at the end of the season. I appreciate that. Now, where are they? Where are they in the division? Well, they're second to last in the division, sitting there at 7th again with the Flames behind them with 6 and the Canucks ahead of them with 12. Games,
3rd to last in the conference, though.
Yeah.
The Blues.
Say it again?
3rd to last in the conference.
Yeah, in the conference.
So the Flames and the Blues are both worse.
Well, they're 3rd to last in the overall NHL, and both those teams were mentioned. So I was hoping people could do their own math there, Ben. But that's fine. Get technical. Sharks have a second game today. It's the second of the back-to-back at home at 5:00 against the Detroit Red Wings. It was really funny because I actually went to this game for my birthday, and my wife was asking me, which game would you like to go to, the Avalanche or the Red Wings? And I said Avalanche. But you know what? Probably kind of fun this year, kind of interesting this year. Then Wednesday, they are on the road up in Seattle. And then Friday, Saturday, more of the back-to-backs. They go to the extremes, folks. They go up to Winnipeg, where it's cold and there's not a lot to do. And then they go down to Miami, where it's hot and there's too much cocaine and alcoholic slushies on the beach. So that is the week of the Sharks. I don't have anything else to say, guys. Oh, what? We got to do all the socials. Blew it because I don't even remember what they
You
are.
don't have to.
Now we should tell people where to go. Although if you listen to this podcast, you probably already figured that out, didn't you? Yeah, you're smart. Oh, well, maybe you're one of those Android people. I'm not going to tell where to go, except maybe Spotify. Apple people, you can check us out on the Apple podcast app. You can check us, Ben, out on Twitter at Circling the Cup. I forget all the other ones that he has. And then, of course, Facebook at Facebook.com/Circling the Cup. Write questions. We do pod on Sundays, so you can always listen live and ask questions. And then, Ben, you want to give us the other one? And then we'll pretend like we know how to get to the Discord.
Is that Ben CTC at Blue Sky?
Yeah, that's probably the one. There's too many these days. There's too many ways to yell at people online. All right. Well, that concludes this week. Say bye-bye, guys.
How long do you think before Calgary just gives up and tanks for McKenna?
I would highly recommend all teams to remember, and fans to please remember, it is a fucking lottery. But sure.
Oh, I could absolutely annoy Ben by wanting Kadri on this team.
If it was not,
I love Kadri. What are you talking about?
Let me put it this way: I'm happy we had.
Damn
Misa.
it! Well, then we could bond over it.
I'm happy we have Misa, but if it weren't a lottery, we would have Schaefer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously because
who's great,
we
but
just
also
spent like an hour
our
and a half
team would
saying
be.
we need defense.
Yeah.
Our team would not be letting him play the way that the Islanders are letting him play. He'd be fucking sitting half the time and not getting power play time because our coaches are idiots. Anyway.
Well, you got to say bye-bye after that.
Oh, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, I gotta go take the kids to lunch. I'll talk to you guys in a bit.
Yep. See you.